Language is limitless. From a few thousand words, we can create countless sentences, things no one has ever said before. How does our mind do that? In 1965, Noam Chomsky answered this question in his groundbreaking book, Aspects of the Theory of Syntax. This book didn't just refine his earlier ideas, it built what we now call the standard theory of generative grammar, changing linguistics forever. Let's explore it together, in simple, easy words, so you'll never forget it again. Let's first discuss the heart of Chomsky's idea. Chomsky believed, like Humboldt before him, that every language makes infinite use of finite means. This means our grammar is not a list of all sentences, but a system of rules that can generate an infinite number of new ones. The job of linguistics, then, is to describe those rules, the mental system that makes understanding and creation of sentences possible. Now let's discuss competence versus performance. Chomsky made a famous distinction between competence is our inner knowledge of language. Performance is how we actually use it in real life. Our competence is perfect, but our performance isn't. We pause, forget, and make slips of the tongue. Yet, deep down, our mental grammar remains flawless. That's why Chomsky said linguistics should study competence, the internal grammar that defines what sentences are possible. Example: the dog that the cat that the boy chased bit ran away. It's grammatical in competence, but feels confusing in performance. Now let's discuss the blueprint of grammar. Chomsky's grammar has three main components: syntactic component, it builds sentence structures; semantic component, it interprets meaning; phonological component, it gives pronunciation or sound. But the syntactic part is central, it connects the other two. It creates deep structure, then transforms it into surface structure. Now let's discuss how sentences begin, the base component. At the base of grammar are phrase structure rules, which build the skeleton of a sentence, called a base phrase marker. For example, S consists of NP plus VP. NP consists of determiner plus N. VP consists of V plus NP. This can produce a simple kernel sentence like, John eats an apple. That's our deep structure, the pure form of meaning. From there, transformations reshape it into, for example, an apple is eaten by John. Which is passive. Does John eat an apple? Which is question. So, deep structure gives meaning. Transformations give shape. Now let's discuss what's inside the lexicon. Words aren't just stored as sound or spelling, they come with features, like little tags that tell grammar how to use them. Each word's entry includes category features consisting of noun, verb, adjective. Subcategorization features like what complements it needs. Selectional features like what fits with it semantically. Example: the verb eat needs an NP object like eat plus NP. This requires to select an animate subject and edible object. Like, John eats an apple is correct, as John is animate who can eat. Whereas, the idea eats truth is wrong, as ideas are inanimate which cannot eat. So the lexicon isn't just vocabulary, it's the engine that drives grammar. Now let's discuss deep structure versus surface structure. Deep structure represents the meaning relationships like who does what to whom. Surface structure represents the final word order we hear. Example: John loves Mary. A kernel sentence: Mary is loved by John. A passive sentence: both mean the same but have different surface forms. The meaning, the relationship between John, subject, and Mary, object, comes from deep structure. Transformations simply rearrange them for expression. Now let's discuss transformations. That is the magic rules. Transformations are the rules that turn deep structure into surface structure. They can move constituents like passive and question, add or delete elements like negation or deletion, embed clauses as relative clauses. Example: the man who persuaded John to be examined by the doctor was fired. This one sentence is created by several transformations, embedding, passivization, and relative clause formation, all layered systematically. Transformations never change meaning, they just reshape form. Next is the limits of performance. Even though grammar allows infinite sentences, our brains can't handle infinite complexity. Chomsky explained that acceptability isn't always the same as grammaticalness. Some sentences are perfectly grammatical but too heavy to process. So performance limitations, memory and attention, explain why we struggle with deeply nested structures, not grammar itself. Next is morphology and the lexicon's structure. Chomsky also examined how words themselves are built. He separated two processes: inflection that adds grammatical endings, walk to walked, and derivation that creates new words, happy to happiness. He noted that some forms are rule-based, while others are irregular and stored directly in the lexicon. The lexicon uses redundancy rules to avoid repetition. If a word is plus human, it's automatically plus animate. This makes the lexicon organized, not just memorized. Now let's discuss universal grammar and human language. Chomsky asked, how can children learn such complex grammar from limited input? His answer, universal grammar, UG, an inborn blueprint that guides language learning. He said a linguistic theory must reach two levels of success: descriptive adequacy as it correctly describes what speakers know, and explanatory adequacy as it explains how that knowledge is acquired. This idea shaped cognitive science and linguistics for decades. Now let's discuss open questions by Chomsky. Chomsky ended by acknowledging what was still unclear. He asked, where exactly do syntax and semantics meet? How should grammar represent degrees of grammaticalness? How can selectional restrictions, like meaning-based limits, be formally handled? He called these residual problems, inviting future research, and linguists are still exploring them today. Now let's conclude the whole discussion. Aspects of the theory of syntax was more than a theory, it was a revolution. It showed that language is a creative, rule-based system living in the human mind. Every sentence you form is proof of that creativity, your mind generating structure and meaning effortlessly. Chomsky said, language is a mirror of the mind. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Instagram, like, subscribe, share.